Okay, so before we get into the quote unquote real news, I wanted to bounce some more celebrity news off you two. Catherine, are you a Swiftie, a Taylor Swift fan?
No, I support Taylor Swift. I think she's great, but I don't know that I could name a song she performs. I'm embarrassed to say that. I like her music.
Yeah, I personally wouldn't call myself a fan, but I'm impressed by what she's accomplished. Ruby, are you a Swiftie? Ruby?
Yeah, I'm like a real full-blown Swiftie. I've been since I was
Okay.
14 years old, so
You're a legacy Swiftie. Okay,
yes.
well okay, you might know what I'm about to talk about. I hope my cousin hears this episode too because she's a full-blown Swiftie. Taylor Swift kind of made some waves or some crossover waves into the wine world recently because her producer Jack Antonoff, who I think she dated at one point, if I'm correct.
No,
Um,
definitely she never dated Jack Antonoff. They've just been working together.
okay, all right, okay. I'm losing Swiftie
Gotta
points.
give you the real news over here.
did, did not date Jack Antonoff. Anyway, he posted a photo a couple weeks ago of her from, I believe, last year after she released a new single. And it was a picture of her eating raisins, which are like cousins of wine. But it looked like she was also drinking a bottle of wine. Of course, the Swifties did their work and they had to identify what bottle of wine it was. And it was none other than Gaslighter Rosé by the Chicks, formerly known as the Dixie Chicks. I am a Chicks fan, and Gaslighter is a wonderful song, but this, I guess, caused quite a fracas, Catherine. Um,
Forgot. Yes, indeed.
uh, because people started, I guess, I don't know. Do you know the rest of this, Ruby?
Well, yeah, let me explain this. So, Taylor Swift just released a song from the vault called "You're Losing Me," and everybody is up in a tizzy about when this song was written. Is it about Joe Alwyn? Is it like recently? Did she write it a few years ago? And so, it's a great song. I really recommend it. And so when Jack Antonoff posted this, he put the date of when the song was written, which was in December of 2021, which means that she and Joe Alwyn have had relationship issues since that time. So even though they broke up only 6 months ago, they've been apart for much longer. So that's the tea. I'm so confused. How does this relate back to the wine? You guys lost me after you said wine. Oh, and this isn't a Taylor Swift podcast? I'm Oh, so sorry.
I think it's because the wine is called Gaslighter, and so there's like
Oh, yes.
speculation
Sorry,
about.
sorry. Yes, yes. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I got carried away with Taylor Swift. So the wine is called Gaslighter, and a lot of Taylor Swift fans are thinking that this might be an Easter egg. As you might know, she leaves Easter eggs. This might be an Easter egg for some of the issues that her and Joe were having. Now it's tied nicely in a chick's bow. I love it. Say it with wine, folks. The Queen Bee of Burgundy has stinging words for natural wine. Tech authenticates terroir. Are California wineries ready for the CRV fee? And the WHO thinks it can fight death with taxes. These are the four wine news stories we're following this week, and this is the Four Top. And now, a word from our sponsor.
If you are looking to get your brand in front of wine pros and wine lovers alike, Catherine Cole could be reading your message right now instead of you hearing my old voice. The Four Top is looking for partners to sponsor our programming. Sponsorship includes 1 or 2 60-second ad reads during our program and a feature on our newsletter. Email me at nick@thefourtop.org or click the sponsor link on our website, thefourtop.org, to learn more.
Well, let's start with a juicy Le Figaro interview that ran December 5th with the headline Exclusive Meeting with Lalou Bisleroy, legend and doyenne of Burgundy wines. Quote, natural wine is bullshit.
Now, listeners, if you are not familiar with Madame Leroy, it is time to get up to speed because she is one of the most powerful, not just women in wine, but human beings in the wine industry.
You might say she's the Taylor Swift of wine.
Totally. Except she's 91 years old. She's a 91-year-old trailblazer. Famously, she co managed what is arguably the world's greatest winery, Domaine de la Romanée Conti, DRC. Then she split off and went her own way. Her Domaine Leroy wines are considered to rival DRC's. She also runs Maison Leroy. Oh, my pronunciation's terrible. I'm sorry, folks. And her family's Domaine d'Auvergne.
So she was apparently a leader in bringing biodynamic viticulture to Burgundy, but she says in the interview that biodynamics don't mean anything, which is that's a big statement. And for example, on the subject of hedging, which I understand from past conversations on this podcast, is a pretty standard viticulture practice. It's basically just pruning the shoots. And she declares that hedging is a massacre and abominable. Shout out to Oliver Stiles, by the way, for highlighting this fantastic interview in his weekly news roundup for Wine Searcher, which was just purchased. There's a little bit of extra bit of news for you guys.
Oh, yeah. Breaking news. I saw that was imminent. Well, congratulations, Wine Searcher.
Yeah, so I didn't know what hedging was until now, but I do live in Brooklyn, and even I can tell that it's pretty explosive for her to say that natural wine is bullshit.
Yeah, those are fighting words, Madame Leroy. The funny thing is, she basically makes natural wines. I mean, she farms biodynamically, even though she says biodynamics are BS. She doesn't use a lot of technologically advanced equipment or artificial cooling, that kind of thing. She talks to her wines. She tells them they're beautiful.
Okay, so her problem is not with natural winemaking or natural wines, but the term natural wines.
Yeah, if I understand the interview correctly, and I will admit it was in French, I'm reading between the lines, I'm interpreting this my own way, but my understanding is that her problem is with winemakers who think they can just do absolutely nothing in the cellar and then bottle subpar wine and then sell it under the moniker natural. And, this is a complaint I hear a lot from what I would call the old guard. I'm personally kind of neutral on the subject. If the cool kids want to drink Venice kombucha, as I call it, and use terms like natural, who am I to judge? I'm just happy when people are drinking wine. But I am curious to hear what our listeners think of this. Is natural wine bullshit? Is it cool when a 91-year-old grande dame mouths off? If you're a natural wine lover, you must revere Madame Leroy. So, where do her comments leave you? Let us know, listeners.
Hey, so here's a headline from the New York Times this week that has been generating a lot of buzz. Bordeaux wine snobs have a point, according to this computer model.
Yeah, this is really exciting. A team of scientists from France, Switzerland, the US, and Portugal have published a paper in the journal Communications Chemistry that describes how a computer model is able to basically blind taste and identify wines. Now, it's not actually tasting the wines, it's a chemical analysis situation, but it is able to identify a wine's origin by microclimate, location, and even vintage. Now, this is huge because basically this computer model is confirming that the concept of terroir is a real thing.
Terroir? Considering that these scientists were French, Portuguese, and English speakers, are we settling on terroir or terroir?
Well, I will leave that up to you since the wines they used in the study were from France, Bordeaux specifically. It might be appropriate to say terroir, but here in the US wine industry, we basically speak Franglish. Case in point, Pinot Noir. So we say terroir.
Okay, so terroir. Google says it's the complete natural environment in which a particular wine is produced, including factors such as the soil, topography, and climate.
Yes. And in the context of wine, terroir is this idea that a wine can speak of the place where the grapes were grown. And it's long been a subject of debate because many geologists have claimed that there's really no way scientifically that the particular soil type of a vineyard should express itself in the aromatics or the flavor of a wine. Well, maybe it's not a soil type thing, maybe it's a microclimate thing, but the point remains that scientists have always been a little skeptical about this idea. At the same time, wine professionals can smell or taste a wine blind and identify it right away where it's coming from. And I'm not just talking wines from a particular winery, but often from a particular vineyard as interpreted by different winemakers. So it's been sort of this argument, this debate where folks in the wine industry have said terroir is a real thing. And this idea of terroir is basically saying that nature trumps nurture. This is about the place, it's not about the winemaker's stamp.
I love these science focused stories because science is cool and wine involves a lot of cool science. And because you get to say fun phrases like gas chromatography. And so here I go. Using a method called gas chromatography, a team in Bordeaux created a database of the molecular makeup of 80 different wines from 7 chateaus over a range of vintages. And then the group of researchers created an algorithm that analyzed the data. And guess what? This computer model was able to identify and classify the wines according to where the grapes were grown. So place matters. Terroir really is a thing.
This is so exciting. I am thinking also that this has applications in combating wine fraud. I mean, all of the big auction houses have got to be salivating over this software. You say you have a pristine case of 1982 Chateau Latour. Okay, well, let's do some gas chromatography and see if this wine really did come from southeastern Pauillac. I mean, it's funny because today's science is confirming what we have all kind of known for millennia, all of us in the wine industry. And, AI is actually now able to identify and classify aromas as well. So pretty soon computers are going to be doing what master somms do. I do hope that instead of replacing them, that these computer models will just confirm what wine lovers and wine insiders have always believed. I mean, this is basically to me this is like science confirming the existence of God.
Or the Loch Ness Monster.
I'd be interested in using AI to prove that New York bagels have terroir and are superior to bagels made everywhere else.
Oh, I like that. In that vein, I think it'd be interesting to use the same approach in beer because breweries that make spontaneously fermented beer, which is just the kind of PC way of referring to beer that is made in the lambic tradition, often claim terroir. They're usually referring to flavor profiles created by local yeast that can only be found in X location. It'd be cool to see if it has any truth to it. Not so long ago, it was even widely believed that you could only make lambic style beers in the Peyotton land of Belgium due to their quote unquote special yeast. But that has been proven untrue, and in retrospect, kind of silly to believe that. And as a side note, I've said a few heretical things about lambic beer in the past minute, so apologies to anyone that was hurt by what I've said.
You're in a safe space. It's only us and a few thousand other people listening.
All right, California. It's almost 2024, which means that the bottle bill is coming at you. Starting January 1st, 2024, Californians will be able to recycle wine, liquor, and large juice bottles for cold hard cash, or 1/10 of a dollar. And we are not just talking about glass bottles here. You can also recycle boxed wine for a nice little 25-cent refund per container, which is awesome. We have a similar bill here in Maine, and it really did boost recycling. Maine boasts one of the highest beverage container recycling rates in the country because of our bottle bill. Plus, it's like a tiny little payday every time you redeem your bottles.
That sounds great. I'm all in favor of incentivizing recycling.
Yeah, I think this is exciting. But let's think about what this means for wine producers. So, starting now, wineries can begin to phase in wording like California refund value 10 cents, adding that wording to their labels. And this type of labeling will be mandatory as of July 1st, 2025. If you produce canned wines, the redemption value must be etched into the top of that can. And wineries, if you haven't heard from your sales CRM platform, your e-commerce provider and or your accountant, you should probably reach out to them now because you'll be wanting to automatically collect that California redemption value fee, the CRV fee, when you make wine sales.
If we rewind to episode 129, just a couple of weeks ago, we learned that the EU has caused some major headaches by clarifying how ingredient labeling should look just 2 weeks before that labeling was required to be rolled out. So we should take note that this California bottle bill requires that the redemption value be, I quote, for clarity, clear, prominent, and indelibly marked on the beverage container.
All right, so listeners, if you plan to sell your wine in California anytime soon, we here at the Foretop recommend that you use, let's say, Helvetica triple bold font, 60 pixels, font weight 1000. Ruby's laughing because she knows exactly what I'm talking about. To print that bottle or box or can redemption value on there. Don't mess it up because you don't want to
Yes,
have to redo
just
it.
just forget about your label design and add that redemption value with a Sharpie or tattooed on your face. That might be the safest option.
Oh, disclaimer. The information provided on the foretop does not constitute legal or graphic advice.
Graphic design, that would be.
According to Benjamin Franklin, in this world, nothing can be said to be certain except death and taxes. And according to the World Health Organization, taxes will fend off death because the WHO is calling for nations around the world to raise excise taxes, that is, taxes targeted at particular products on alcohol and sugary beverages. I'm getting Boston Tea Party vibes.
Yeah, so last week the WHO came out with a pretty strongly worded statement, and I quote, globally, 2.6 million people die from drinking alcohol every year, and over 8 million from an unhealthy diet. Implementing tax on alcohol and SSBs will reduce these deaths.
Oh boy, slow down there, folks. So, 8 million people are dying because they're eating terrible food, and 2.6 million are dying because they're drinking too much alcohol. That's definitely 10.6 million too many deaths. But I am very curious because this report does not provide a lot of detailed information. Like, I don't know, maybe a lot of these people who have terrible diets are also drinking too much? Are they also smoking? I kind of need to know more.
Yeah, the WHO does not provide much information in this.
Okay, so according to this report, excise taxes represent just 6.6% of the price of sugary sodas worldwide, while the average worldwide excise tax on beer and spirits ranges from 17.2 to 26.5%. So alcohol is already being taxed a lot more heavily than sugary sodas.
Mhm. Oh, and also, I just feel like I need to jump in here and say my people are from Montana, and there actually is a more efficient way to say sugary sodas, and that is pop.
Whatever you want to call it, looks like it could stand to be taxed a bit more.
Yeah, but these guidelines also cite a 2017 study that shows that taxes that increase alcohol prices by 50% would help avert over 21 million deaths over 50 years and generate nearly $17 trillion in additional revenues.
Oh my goodness. I find this irritating for so many reasons. I am going to wait before ranting too much because Martin Reyes and I are going to dig into this topic in depth very soon on this very podcast feed. But let me just give you a little teaser, guys. Imagine going to a blue zone, one of those places around the globe where life expectancy is way longer and people are just way healthier than they are in the rest of the world. Imagine going to a blue zone place like in Sardinia or Greece where people regularly live to be 100, and then imagine jacking the price on their locally grown and produced wines by 50%. I am willing to bet if you did that, life expectancy would decrease. So I'm sorry, WHO, but what? Increase alcohol taxes by 50%? I just don't think that with wine, that's going to save lives. I think it's going to make people's lives more miserable. I'm a little biased, though.
So, so you're saying is like wine's not the same thing as a Red Bull and vodka?
Hell no. Well, now it is time for our dessert course. Ruby, I think you're up for sharing some dessert.
Great. Well, I've been listening to a lot of Taylor Swift, and when I'm not listening to Taylor Swift, I've been recently really into the new Hosier album, Unreal Unearthed. He also sings Cherry Wine, which you might know. But my favorite song on this album is Eat Your Young. I think it's really fun. It's a kind of a graphic title, but it's a really great song, and I've been listening to it while drinking wine, while cooking in the kitchen, and yeah, it's just a good time.
I think I'll stick with cherry wine, but that sounds good. Well, this has been the Four Top Podcast. I am our executive producer, Catherine Cole.
I'm our producer, Nick Toole.
I'm media and design manager and resident Swiftie, Ruby Welkovich.
Keelan King is our sound supervisor and the composer and performer of our fantastic theme music. Please visit our website, thefourtop.org, to learn more about us, listen to back episodes, and purchase books written by our amazing panelists. If you have not already subscribed to The Four Top on iTunes, Spotify, or whatever your favorite podcast platform is, please do so and leave us a rating.
Y'all, this part is important because every rating feeds the algorithm and helps new listeners find the foretop.
Well, this week I am signing out from sunny California, and it is so much nicer than rainy Portland. I'm gloating a little bit, but this is Catherine Cole signing out.
And from rainy Brooklyn, this is Ruby signing out.
From the perpetually slushy city of Portland, Maine, this is Nick Toole signing out. Stay safe out there, and thanks for listening.
Yeah, that's right, folks. Stay safe at those holiday parties and just say no to Red Bull and vodka.
I had my first Red Bull and vodka like 3 months ago.
Oh,
I have
really?
never had a Red Bull and vodka. Ew.